we go. So, hi, I'm recording, so sounds are going to come through, but not video because the one I'm recording on doesn't have anything. But what we're doing is we're celebrating the official release of Apples for Georgia. There is a little bit of a delay with the Library of Congress location number, so it may officially be published December and not November, in which case I'll give everybody out the correct information and things can be corrected in the books. My plan is to show some behind the scenes stuff. I have 2 full pages of questions to answer, and then if there's time left at the end, we can take any questions on any bits that I've missed. So a majority of the questions were about the process of doing this book and what it takes and how long everything is. So the first thing I'm going to show is, at the very beginning, I planned out the illustrations by looking up a 32-page storyboard and just ended up copying and pasting little photographs that I found for the types of illustrations that I want to do. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you can kind of see my scribbles over things. This is where I started. Some of these are photographs that I took. A number of the questions were already answered in the frequently asked questions on the Kickstarter and in the promo video, so I'm not going to duplicate that, but I will kind of go over some things. I originally went to visit some family up in Maine and took pictures of one of my kids feeding apples to one of their cows, and then the next year was still thinking about that as a possible book, and so took some more cow pictures. Just like I said in the frequently asked questions, there's actually 6 or 7 different cows sort of conglomerated in to make Georgia. The original cow was brown and white and was named Jeffrey, so I thought of it as Apples for Jeffrey for the many, many years. But then there was a different cow who was Georgie, who was all black, who informed a little bit more of the stylization. But then I got to the woodcut that was later translated into the cover, and it felt like a she more than a he, so she became Georgia. And most cows on most farms are female, so that didn't feel disingenuous. So as I went along, I kept updating the storyboards. You can see here small versions of the unprinted woodcuts as I completed them and my notes, and it's messy, but it obviously worked. So there we are on that. So I'm going to do some Q&A, at least to get started. So what inspired this particular illustration style? How did I decide on the art style? Who inspired Georgia? What are the inspirations that went into Apples for Georgia books, printmakers, folktales, etc.? So first and foremost, with snowy cows and snowsuits and things like that is, of course, Ezra Jack Keats' The Snowy Day, and how wonderful his snowsuit is. I was also thinking about a book in children's literature that I took at Greenfield Community College, where we watched interviews with Ezra Jack Keats and how at the time there weren't people of color in children's books. And so that felt really important to not have the child in this book be a particular gender or a particular skin color or anything like that. So changing the photographs that I'd taken of one of my own kids so that it could be any kid and every kid. The other one that really inspired me quite a lot is Tracks in the Snow by Wong Herbert Yi. And you'll recognize, if you've read the book, there's it right here at the beginning, the illustration of the snowsuit hanging on the pegs with the mittens hanging down is directly inspired by this one. So I'll get it out of the book to show you. We can hold them up there. So a pegboard and hanging mittens, and it felt wonderful. So I went with that. So those are the main inspirations that I took from 2 lovely stories about children and snowy days. A couple of questions coming in about if they are all wood or if I did any lino cuts. I have always, since starting woodcuts, done actual woodcuts. I like that the carvings are biodegradable, and I can compost them in my garden rather than having to deal with countless non-biodegradable shavings. So here's the full stack of the book. Other questions were, how long did it take to create each image, and how long did each block take to make, from idea to sort of final print. Each woodcut takes anywhere from probably 3 to 5 hours from design to able to be printed block. In printing sessions, the majority is the setup and the cleanup. So the actual printing itself doesn't take as long. So printing 10 prints is not that much longer than printing 1 print. So I would estimate I've spent probably 125, 150 hours total from storyboard idea to sending the files off to the printer as far as this book goes. Next question, favorite illustrations. I don't know that I have favorites. There's some that I think are more successful than others, and it was really gratifying to see the spread of different prints that people wanted through the Kickstarter. There was probably 6 or 7 different prints where one person wanted them, and 2 or 3 where there was 2 or 3 people that wanted them. So I feel like that was fairly successful. I think also you have to have not filler, but the ones that keep the sort of the story going up and down, that are not necessarily something you're going to want on your wall, but they need to keep the story moving forward. Biggest challenge from the start to the final project. What were the biggest challenges in putting the book together, and which page or print was the hardest to get right? The cow. That was the hardest. I started off with the woodcuts of the apples because, well, I've done woodcuts of apples and illustrations of apples, so those, and paintings of apples. So those felt like they came through really well. But taking because I wasn't doing woodcuts of a particular cow, I was inventing a cow, and I haven't invented very many cows before. The woodcut that actually didn't make it into the thing, I think I buried it here somewhere. Where did I put it? So the original of this print, it had from the photograph, it had another cow in the background. Here it is. And early prints of that, it's hard to figure out. Like, there's an extra butt there that doesn't line up with the cow. So I started with, this was the first print I did of it. And I was like, okay, there's some things missing. And so I carved a little more and then printed again. So here the difference is, I added some marks at the side of the nose, and I changed the eye in particular because it felt off balance. And then trying to make it slightly easier to see for the third version of this, that this ultimately didn't make it into the book because I redid it without that extra butt, are the lines along the back up here to demarcate where the cow is. But this was the hardest one, and I feel like the version that actually ended up in the book was much more successful without the confusing extra cow butt in there. So here it is in the book, in the final version. So change the position slightly, so some of those lines that differentiate cow from window, and I simplified the window. So I think that was the one that was the most challenging of individual woodcuts. The biggest challenge of the whole book was getting started, because these photographs of my kid, like, she's 10 now, and she was very much not 10, and she was wearing a toddler snowsuit. So once I did get started, things moved through fairly quickly, and because I had sort of ruminated on it for years, things just kind of came together. Okay. The biggest change was the cover, as you can kind of see in some of the rough drafts. Like, I assumed which one was going to be my favorite or the most picturesque, and when I did the other one, this is reversed from the one that's in the book. The cover is her facing the opposite direction, but that original woodcut, I knew immediately that that would be the cover because it's about her and it has an apple. Okay, next question. Other questions of how to spread the book and how to purchase additional copies. I have listed it in my Etsy shop and everything's up as of this morning. As for how to spread the word, I don't know. I'm new at this. I would say ask your library, ask local bookstores if they would be interested in doing a signing, because I'm willing to travel. I know that some of the donation libraries, if the book isn't taken out, they don't keep in circulation forever. So even just reading the copy at your library, if your library has a copy. I did search the CW Mars, the Central and Western Massachusetts Library Network, and there are currently 2 copies available. So that's fun. What's next? Am I going to make more books? What projects are coming next? Am I working on another book? And what's my next project? Yes, I am working on other books. I currently have a list of over 20 titles and concepts in various forms, from completely written and storyboarded out to 2 or 3 chapters written for longer books. So I have many more things in the works. The next book is going to be called This Is Not a Fish, and it's about misnomers in sea creatures. And I have a long list of misnomers in less aquatic creatures as well, so that could potentially be a follow-up after that. The final questions were about being awesome and why am I so amazing. And what's particularly funny is that these questions were for some of the coolest people that I know. So I don't know. They would have to tell me. So that is what I have for the Q&A and for the show and tell. And if anybody else has any questions, I can take those now. Let's see. Okay, a question about how much the girls helped. They helped by entertaining themselves and by giving positive feedback. They didn't do any of the work in the actual book. They are very interested in doing woodcuts, but I told them that they would have to wait. Yes, cows actually do eat windfalls. Once the apples start to ferment, you have to be careful, particularly with milking cows, because it can make them dry up from the alcohol in it. But a couple shouldn't have any negative effect. I have answered those. Okay. So that is all of the questions and the answers that I've got. So everything is live on my Etsy, and there's books arriving at libraries, and all of the Kickstarter soft cover copies, with the exception of one in the US and one in Canada, I have tracked and they have been delivered. So now I have to do the artist copies and hand lettering and binding and do that whole fun process, but I left a little more time for that. So well, it has been lovely, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Oh, we have a hand raised. There we go. I didn't see that. Okay, so great to see. I'm going to keep going. Fun to hear I have more plans. Setting a great example for the girls to make and complete a project. that is something I think that all artists struggle with, to take an idea and continue with it and see it all the way through. But I knew I had to start somewhere, having had a long list for a while. So it has been an incredible learning experience, and I know that everything that we do like this makes the next thing more easy. So thank you so much to everyone for joining in. Oh, one more question. How did I find a publisher? I didn't. I actually started Penny Bun Press, which is my business, in the fall of 2020. And then it took me a few years to publish a book. So I have that structure set up. And then this summer I joined with a handful of the other studio art graduates the year that I graduated from Smith in 2022, and created sort of a container for support within that, partially to make this book possible. So that worked out well, and I actually have the next meeting with them all tomorrow, so I will be able to report back on this project. So that's all I have, and thank you so much for everyone joining in, and thank you for all of your support, and I look forward to seeing you at a library or a bookstore or in person or over the video. So thank you so much, everybody.